love it.
All right, we're back, and we're half in the bag. No, I'm totally kidding. Jason Lloyd from The Athletic.
I got the hookers and blow coming now. The club brought the alcohol, and I got the hookers and blow.
We kid.
Well, Jason did do a column once about
Atlanta strip clubs.
prostitution.
Atlanta strip clubs at the Super Bowl.
He's become good friends with some of those
That's why,
ladies.
listen, whenever players say, we're headed to Atlanta, I get nervous.
Yeah.
Because a lot of bad
Famous
shit goes
strip
down
club.
in Atlanta.
Yeah, but he did a whole column. He did a column about.
I remember it.
It was an amazing column.
It was great. It really
was so
really
good.
Because you know why that was so good?
That's the
If
culture.
you're inside that culture, like
That
if you're
culture.
in the media or if you're a professional athlete, you know exactly what you were writing about. But a
Right.
lot of the fans have no idea.
Yeah.
No clue.
Yeah.
They have no idea, but they do now.
That was
They do
wild.
now.
It was
Yeah.
one of the wildest stories of my career.
Yeah, that's a great example of pulling back the curtain. Okay, we're going to change gears a little bit. I think that this is important because the Guardians are playing so well right now.
Yeah.
And we're all so Brown-centric.
Yeah.
And we understand that that's what the fans really want to talk about. But, guys, if you're not paying attention right now to what the Guardians are doing, you're missing it. They've won 9 of 11. They just finished a sweep of the Rockies. I think they've won 4 in a row. But you look at the standings, and now they're 5 games over 500, 32, 27, and 27. And there's 2 games behind the Twins.
It's crazy.
2 games behind the Twins.
Crazy.
And there was a lot of talk if this team could even be 500 this year. And I know it's a long year, and they could still finish below 500. But, Jason, the news yesterday that Major League Baseball has approved David Blitzer as a minority owner for the Guardians. He's going to own somewhere between 25 and 30% with the option to have controlling interest in about 7 years, I think. Talk about what that means for our fan base, why we should be excited about that, and what your hopes are for where we're going.
Yeah, so it's been expected for a while, right? We've heard Blitzer's name for a while. And so this wasn't so much of a surprise yesterday. And I think what the good news for this is, you know, the way it was explained to me a few months ago was don't expect David to come in and start writing checks to
Right.
cover losses. Like, that's not going to happen.
Nope.
But his acumen is in real estate. And so the plan now is really to develop the land around Progressive Field. And going back to the lease negotiations, when they were talking about extending the lease, I was told by multiple people that was a really big deal to the Dolans, was trying to figure out how to monetize the area around Progressive Field, which is difficult because they don't own any of it.
Right.
And we know the financial limitations of this ownership group. They're not going to go out and start buying all the buildings. So how do we figure this out? And Zach Mosel and I at The Athletic, like, just canvassed the entire area. And one of the things I said was, you know, when they built this, the garage made a lot of sense. Now it's terrible. Like, it's taken up a lot of really valuable real estate to have this garage. So I think the plan is going to be try and do something with the garage, peel a couple layers off, whatever, and redevelop some of that land around Progressive Field. So this is a long-term play. This isn't Blitzer's here. Here's $30 million. Go get Garrett Cole or whatever.
But he's got a lot more money than
He
the
does
Dolans
have a
have.
lot
So
Let me
more
ask
in
you
the
this,
long
though.
run, it
Do
should
you
help.
get the sense that he's in this for the profit in the real estate ventures and what surrounds? Or do you think, because I'm told he is a major baseball guy.
Yeah, and they've got, and him and Josh Harris comes with him on a lot of these deals. Like, they work together. Harris is the primary owner on the 76ers.
Right.
Josh, to my knowledge, is not part of this deal yet. I wonder if he will come on when the Dolans slide out.
Sure.
Or at some point, but as of now, Josh is not
So
part of this.
explain
So
that.
they are sliding out.
He's co-owner.
Eventually, yeah.
He's
Oh,
the,
wow.
He's the co-owner of the 76ers and also, I believe, the
Soccer.
Devils. The New Jersey Devils.
Yeah.
He's got
They've
interest
got
in
soccer teams.
for sure.
There's a lot.
And he's also a minority owner in the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I didn't even know that. Blitzer
That's
is?
true.
That's-
He's the only
yeah.
person to have at least a minority
In
stake
all-
in all 5
Yeah,
professional
5,
sports
counting
leagues.
soccer. Yeah. So he's well funded. He's got a ton of money. I know. Look, and do you remember when we found out that Jimmy Haslam was a former minority owner in the Steelers?
yeah.
We thought, hey, finally, come on over. Let's bring the blueprint. And it never
it's-
worked out that way.
It's funny. Jimmy told us at the owners' meetings, we were talking to him, and he said, we thought it was easy. You know, like, they had Roethlisberger, Kevin Colbert, and Mike Tomlin in the 3 most important positions. We were being sized for Super Bowl rings before we wrote the equity check. And no, it didn't prepare us. So that doesn't necessarily mean, you know.
Yeah.
But
I found it interesting, though, that he's also invested in the Steelers.
What I think is very fascinating about this, and this is my hope long term, and maybe when Blitzer becomes the eventual owner, is that we know that the Guardians get good TV ratings. They always have. I actually don't know for what they are right now, like the last month or so.
It's been a little wonky with just the deals and people can't see the games.
Right, I know it's strange. But overall, for the past decade, they've
Cleveland
had
traditionally has done fairly well
very
with their
well.
local TV ratings.
So we know there is interest, especially the older fan base, right? But a lot of people have stopped going to games because they're like, the team doesn't spend, so why am I going to spend to go to a game?
Also, I think the name change had a lot to do with this year, why we're seeing such low attendance this year. Bull, I know you may not believe this, but I've talked to at least 4 longtime season ticket holders, and all 4 of them said, we're out.
I mean,
and so those are
that is
season
the
ticket
dumbest
holders.
thing I've ever heard in my life.
Listen, it's a personal choice.
I hear you.
You may not agree with it, but it's their money, it's their choice.
Sure.
And I think to ignore that as not being a factor for attendance, I think is burying your head in the sand.
Right, but there's nothing to do at this point. So.
Not now, no.
Right.
But I just bring that up as I think the lack of spending has been a deal for 10 years, 15 years.
Yes.
But now you've given them another reason not to go to game. Look, this team is competitive.
Yeah.
And
But
it's a good baseball
fans
market.
weren't
You
even
always
going when
bring
they
up
were
the 445 or whatever it was consecutive sellouts, yet now we sold out one game all year.
But even when they were a World Series contender, their attendance was terrible.
In 16,
right?
it was,
it was
way
awful.
in the bottom half of the league.
And my hope is that eventually they'll spend, eventually they'll start keeping more of their good players like Jose Ramirez down the line,
Right.
and that will eventually encourage
Jay,
people
do
to
you
go
think
to
we
games
can
more.
ever get back to the days of 2 million fans and all these consecutive sellouts? Because Cleveland has lost a ton of population. Not just since 95, but if you go back historically, I think about 100 years ago, Cleveland was the 3rd or 4th largest metropolitan area in the United States.
That's
We're nowhere
amazing.
near that now.
I don't know that baseball will ever hit those numbers in Cleveland again. I think it was a perfect storm of events. The Browns leaving, obviously, the Cavs. The Cavs were good, but when you talk about the LeBron factor, LeBron created a generation of basketball fans in Cleveland that previously didn't exist.
And we had an all-star lineup.
And the lineup was just unbelievable that they had in the late 90s. So I don't know. I've wondered for years if Cleveland can support 3 teams. How long do we have the economic ability? Sherwin-Williams bringing its headquarters downtown, I think, is a really big deal.
Right.
And we need more of that. We need more companies bringing headquarters and getting tax abatements, whatever, to keep jobs downtown, to bring industry downtown, business downtown. That'll help. But I have serious long-term concerns about. But the good thing is, they just extended the lease on Progressive Field.
Right.
The Browns aren't going anywhere, and the Cavs are committed to Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse with all the renovations they just did. But financially, it's a tough go for Cleveland to support 3. So I don't think Cleveland will ever see the baseball numbers that we saw in the late 90s.
Jason, do you believe that eventually, because of Blitzer, they will have a consistently higher payroll?
I think that's fair.
Which
I
could make a difference.
They can't go lower.
Yeah, it's never. I agree. It's never going to be 2 million.
But again, it's not going to be next year.
No,
it's not going to
sure.
be. I think,
Okay.
and I think I made this mistake too. When John Sherman came in, you could follow where the payroll went up and where the payroll went down when Sherman went in and when he came out.
That's exactly right.
But the way it was explained to me was it was really more the BAMTech money that shot it up.
Oh, really?
And then when the BAMTech money ran out is when it came back down. So it was really just sort of coincidental that that's when John came in. And I've talked to people in all sports who say, like, listen, being a minority owner, really, it's just an ego stroke. It just gives you a little juice to tell people that you are part owner of a team, but you have no say in decision making. You're not in part of the meetings, of the really important meetings of, should we trade this guy? Should we
You're
sign
just
a
writing
free agent?
checks.
You're just writing checks.
Without making decisions.
Yeah, and it kind of gets you on the other side of the ropes, but that's really it.
What I like about this deal, though, is it's structured in such a way where each year he will have more interest until eventually, 7 years from now, he'll have over the threshold of 50%, and that's when he can have real impact. But I do think, Jason, that he can still have an immediate impact, if for no other reason, for him to throw more money into the payroll scene. When you look at this team, Jay, how many guys is this team away from being able to make a run? Look at where the Braves were last year on August 10th. And nobody on August 10th said they're going to win the World Series.
Right.
This team has the pitching to do that.
Same thing when the Nationals won the World Series.
And the Nationals,
they were
you're
terrible
right.
that year.
And so I know from a distance it looks like this is the Yankees and the Mets and a collision course in October. But gosh, it's baseball. Anything can happen. They absolutely have to be buyers at the deadline.
Oh, they are.
They cannot be sellers. At
They
have nothing
with
to
this
sell.
record.
First of all, what are they going to sell?
I disagree. I think they have a ton of prospects in the system, young, talented guys.
Right.
I mean, they don't
No,
have
but
that
he's talking about
blue
selling.
chip.
Who
Yeah,
are
they
they
don't
gonna
have
sell?
that
But
blue
selling,
chip.
we're talking about veterans that you
Yeah,
sell.
but you could still unload 4 of these prospects. You know what I'm saying? So
Right, but when you talk about selling at the deadline, you're selling your veterans.
yes,
to
but
get
you can be a you can not sell without buying. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't have to be one or the other. I think this year they're going to move some of these pieces.
They have to.
Yeah.
Get maybe 2 or 3 of the missing links because they're clearly missing a bat or 2.
I think they need 2 legitimate middle of the lineup bats.
I agree
think.
with that.
So I've talked about this at nauseum. They're going to be buyers regardless of what the standings look like because of the 40-man roster construction right now. They had to jam 11 prospects onto the 40-man in advance of the Rule 5 draft,
Right.
which baseball didn't even have. Baseball totally screwed Cleveland by not having the Rule 5 draft. And I get it, logistically, after the lockout, there just wasn't enough time. But, you know, the Guardians never would have put Jhonkensy Noel on the 40-man
Right.
had they known there wasn't going to be a Rule 5.
They had very few options.
But the flip side to that is the fact that there was no Rule 5. A guy like Oscar Gonzalez is still here because
True.
he probably would have been lost to the Rule 5 draft. So the way that, I wrote about this last week, to boil this down, and there you sort of see it, this is my understanding. This is the infield of the future. This is their thought process
I don't like Naylor at
going
first base.
forward.
I don't love him defensively at first base.
terrible.
Well, you can't play him in the outfield. It's
No,
got to
you
be.
can't.
It's the outfield experiment is over. If Josh Naylor's in Cleveland, he's going to be at first base. Now that's not to say they pursued Matt Olson in the offseason, but as we stand now, this is the way it looks going forward. They like Naylor at first. They like Jimenez at second. Gabriel Arias is, as of now, that's how they view their up the middle is Jimenez at
That's a
second.
pretty
and Arias
damn
at
good
short.
infield.
That's if Arias lives up to expectations,
Right.
and we're seeing Jimenez grow into it, and obviously you have Jose at third. Okay, so what's that mean? Well, you have Brian Rocchio in the minors. You have Tyler Freeman in the minors. You have Ahmed Rosario sort of getting hot a little bit right now.
He is, finally.
Playing
He
better at
doesn't have
short.
that much trade value.
No, but he has more at short than he does in the outfield. That's why they're leaving him at
Yes.
short.
Right.
If you put him in left field, he has 0 trade value. So by keeping him at short, you at least build a little bit of trade value there. And Rosario's probably going to be moved. I would think he'll be moved by the July deadline. And maybe you see Arias is still out. He's rehabbing from a fractured hand. He had
Will he be
surgery
back
on it.
by July or August?
I think right in that window.
Because that makes it even more likely that Rosario's gone.
I think if they can find a good deal for Rosario, I think he's gone. So these are some, and Owen Miller's the tricky one because they really like him. He was batting cleanup not that long
Right,
ago.
I know.
So now they got to figure out a spot for him. They've talked about possibly
Oscar
using,
Gonzalez too. I mean, gosh, he's getting it done.
We
He
got to
is
be
getting it
careful,
done.
though, by saying a guy's a definite starter based on a couple of
I don't
weeks.
look at stats.
Yeah.
I really don't, and I don't know that you do either. When I see a pitcher can be 1-5 with a 6 ERA, if he has good stuff, he has good stuff, and he's learning how to pitch at the big league level.
Right.
The reason I'm excited about Oscar Gonzalez, forget the numbers, forget him. I just look at his at bats. I look at his swings. I look at how he puts the bat on the ball. He hits to all field. I think the guy's a ball player.
Yeah, it's weird because the scouting report on Gonzalez was free swinger, some holes in his swings, but a ton of power. We haven't really seen
the power, but
he's
And
been
all
the
his team
exact
has
opposite.
is a bunch of singles hitters.
Right.
So you'd like to see him hit for some
So
power.
it's still so early. Like him and Quan, I don't include in this because we just don't know.
Right.
There's just too much unknown, and they are going to make deals. They could go get a pitcher. Like I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that they go and acquire a starter, but they do need an impact bat. I agree. They have the pieces to get it done. They have to rebalance this 40-man. They know they do. They're under the gun a little bit. I've had conversations with them where they say, yeah, like this year, if we're in this position next year, we're going to have problems just because there's so many prospects.
What are they going to do with Bieber ultimately?
I think they trade him.
Do you?
I don't think they trade him this year.
Not
but,
this year.
But I think they could be
I
this
think they're going to
winter.
trade him this offseason.
Well, if you trade him this year, you're kissing any playoff
Yeah, I don't
success
I don't
out
think
the
they trade him
window.
now. I think they it's really possible they move him this winter because if you look at it, they were having conversations with Jose, and if Jose didn't take the deal that was offered to him, or if he didn't come way down, he wouldn't be here today, and he had 2 years of control left.
Right, yeah.
And they made that mistake with Frankie.
I was just going to say, what did the Frankie experience
That's
teach
exactly
the
it.
Indians
He still
moving
got a
forward?
decent return.
They-
for
No,
him.
they did not what they could have got
But
for
if
Frankie.
not for what they
Right.
could have got, and had they known a pandemic was coming,
Yeah,
no,
right.
they would have
yeah.
dealt
How
with
did
it.
they not see that
I
coming?
think if they can't sign Bieber this offseason, which is unlikely,
They're not going to.
No, I don't think they are
Then
either.
he's got to be traded this offseason.
The advanced numbers on Shane, as much as people kind of roll their eyes at it, but some
Yeah.
of the velocity in spin rate.
It's down a little bit.
It very
I'm a little
much
concerned.
There's a lot of people that are a little bit
Yeah.
concerned.
And by the way, the bottom line on the line, first of all, the team is overachieving, I think.
Well, let's say this: they've been beating a lot of bad teams.
They have.
So let's see what happens when they go through the American League East.
And I think they're very aware of that.
Yeah, they are.
They are very aware of where they are in this process, and they can compete in their division. They can
Division
compete.
stinks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they can compete with the middle of the pack when they know they're
when you
punching
get
way out of their
19
weight
against
class.
the Royals and the Tigers,
Right.
you're
when
going
you're
to
going
rack
against
up wins.
when you're going against the Yankees and the Blue Jays and stuff, they know they're punching out of their weight class.
So when
right now.
when do you say, all right, I'm going to pay attention? At what point do they have to get to in the standings, and what time of the year for you to say, well,
I think they're there now. You should be paying attention
Yeah.
to this team
as
now.
far as legitimately a contender making the playoffs?
They're gonna hang around in this division race all year. And I mean, Chicago to me is the most talented team in the division. It's not even close. But they've had a ton of injuries,
and they've underachieved.
For sure,
And
they've
their
underachieved.
But you know what the beauty of
The manager
baseball is?
sucks.
This is why I love it so much. In the NBA, if you squeak into the playoffs, you're done.
Yeah.
No chance.
In the NFL, I mean, I know wild cards have won it, so it's possible for a team to go 9-7 or
But if you don't have a
10-7
quarterback,
now.
you got no chance.
Right, but you usually know that. But
Yeah.
I got to tell you, with baseball,
Anybody can win.
Yeah.
anybody can win, and the Braves proved that again last year, and they did that without their best player. I mean, they on August 10th, I believe they were under 500.
Right. So,
and
yeah.
nobody would have ever imagined that the Braves were going to put together the run they did.
Right.
Particularly when you got to get through the Dodgers and
Yes.
the gauntlet that can be the National League. So just get in,
and
and
you
give
never
us
know.
a chance.
And that's why you have to add to the lineup, because the reality is, in terms of we could be all excited about this prospect and that prospect. What we know is, to this point, the Guardians have not developed hitters. They have not.
No.
And Jose Ramirez is the only player in their lineup that is a proven better than average. Nobody else in their lineup is better than average. And a lot of those guys are not
Do
even
you agree
average.
with that, Jay?
Who's better than average?
I think they're so young.
Right. I'm talking about proven.
But here's what I would say in terms of
Who's their second best player?
developing Jimenez, probably.
I would say Jimenez too.
He
but
is
I
an
would-
average
I
major
would
leaguer
say
at best.
He's 24.
No, he's not. He's got so much upside, Bull. His numbers.
I'm talking about
I'll
what
guarantee
they've
you.
proven.
I will
What
guarantee
they've
you that his
proven.
numbers are definitely in the top half of major league shortstops right now. And because he's so young, and Naylor too. You look at these guys, and you remember Wade Boggs didn't make Major League Baseball until he was like 26 years old.
Yeah.
So if these guys continue to improve, it's hard to say, well, they're not developing anybody.
Well, but it is not hard to say because
No,
they haven't developed
well,
any.
the current crop of guys are so young.
I agree,
I even
but-
throw Gonzalez in that
But
list.
who have
else
they
do you think
developed
could
in
be?
the last 6-7 years?
So
nobody.
No,
So
their
here's-
track record's bad.
Here's what I think you're going to see. At some point here in the last 5 years or so, I think there was an organizational shift in how they scouted and identified talent. And they went, first of all, with pitchers, they went to control and thought they could teach velocity. And Bieber's a perfect example of that. Now, I know the velocity's dropped a little bit this year.
Right.
But find guys who can command, and we can teach them speed. And with hitting, you're seeing it with find guys who can put the bat on the ball, and we'll develop the other things. And the Dominican, the academy, that really hasn't, outside of Jose, which, he pays for it himself.
Sure.
They really haven't developed a whole lot of talent out of there. Oscar Gonzalez came out of there. You're seeing that now. Jose Tena, a guy in the minors, is getting close. He's one of those guys that is on the upper tier, top 10 type prospect guy who came through that academy. So you're starting to see George Valera's another one. This wave of guys, I agree with you. To this point, they have not developed hitting
Right,
at
we've
all.
heard about other prospects year after year.
And they have to
I'm
trade
not
for
saying
them.
they're not going to pan out.
But their pitcher
Yes,
development
they've
has
been great at pitcher development.
They've been best in the
and
major
I'm not
leagues.
saying Jimenez and Naylor at some point might not be better than that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying what they've proven.
No,
to this
you're right.
point.
And
Their
plus,
track record.
and plus, all the hitters have come through trade.
Right.
Jimenez,
Yes.
Naylor, even in
Yes.
going back. In terms of developing homegrown hitters that
Right.
they identify,
Except
draft, and
Ramirez.
develop, obviously Manny Ramirez, Jim
Right.
Thome, but you're going back 30 years
Yeah,
now.
you're right.
They're just
Right.
outside of Jose, they just haven't had that.
Right.
Yeah.